Slack is a little bit too easy to just type a Slack message, send it, interrupt everyone, get some emojis, right? And then Zoom is just a little too heavy, like, oh man, we just needed to talk. Why do we have to have a meeting? So Volley's kind of the mama bear that's right in the middle in the Goldilocks story.
So welcome back. I sat down with the CEO of a new application called Volley App, and this entrepreneur is on a mission to kill meetings. I know what you're thinking. You're sick of all these Zoom meetings, you're sick of all these conversations, and you're also sick of sending Slack messages back and forth where you're sending fish emoji, cat emoji, rocket ship emoji, and somehow this is meant to be productive. Now, before I get too deep, I should mention that Volley App is sponsoring this video, but I'm not in it for that sweet, sweet sponsor money. In fact, I'm gonna give some of that money back to you. If you submit a pitch of your startup doing something amazing and interesting, I'd love to see that pitch, and we're gonna use Volley App to do that. And I'm giving away $1,000 to one of my subscribers, one of my viewers, for their amazing pitch. So stay tuned to the end of the video and we'll tell you more about that. So we're taking a look at Volley, and Volley is set up as a desktop app. It's also available for your mobile phone, but it's very similar to Slack or other tools that you're familiar with, where you can have conversations and discussions. You can record videos and video conversations. You can see those right in situ in the conversation view. You can also record audio only conversations or text only conversations as well. But the key thing about Volley is it's really interactive. You really get to see people's facial expressions and respond to them in line. So unlike Slack or email or other tools where you spend a lot of time thinking and typing and searching for that right emoji to express your thought, you're really having that conversation in Volley using just your voice, using just a normal conversation. So there's less searching around for tools and text. You're really able to have that conversation right here. Because along the left-hand side, you can see there's conversations split up into both conversations and direct messages. You can both message your team if it's just a team-oriented within your company conversation, or you can also use the tools within Volley to reach out to people outside of your team. So you can really use it with people outside your team who are looking to collaborate with you. So it really shortcuts a lot of the communication process in terms of typing. It allows you to use your voice for a lot of those conversations. So a lot of efficiencies to be gained there. Josh, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to have you. I'd love to know kind of a little bit about you and how you came up with this concept.
So we probably have to start. I'm a teacher by education. I went into the corporate world after realizing that teaching wasn't my thing. And I worked at 3 Fortune 500 companies and had a successful career in sales and marketing. And it wasn't until 2007 when I launched my first company called Maestro. And from that experience, built another company called Bloomfire, which today is a premier knowledge management platform in the enterprise. I took a few years off to really think about what I wanted to do next. And that's where the idea of Volley came. It's kind of getting the right information to the right people at the right time, connecting that with my love of asynchronous video communication on platforms like Snapchat and Marco Polo. And then the pandemic hits and it's like, I know. All these teams just went remote. Now communication is much harder. We're having to either Slack or Zoom. We're tired of both. Enter Volley.
Tell me kind of how you came up with the concept. How did you prototype this or know that there was kind of a there?
That aha moment came to me, like I said, using tools like Snapchat and Marco Polo and realizing, these conversations are just as good as any synchronous conversation I have. And for some reasons, better because I can take it or leave it. I can move the conversation forward when it needs to. I can listen to the other person on 2x. I can restate my thought. I can take time to think about my response. And I thought, you know what, we really need the place that we need this type of communication most is at work, in our teamwork and collaborating with our teams or connecting with other professionals outside of our team. So that was the seed of the idea. And instead of building a prototype, which was software, we built just wireframes, or not, they were fully designed wireframes, and made a video. And we thought, actually, our first attempt at validating this was, we thought this type of communication would be great for sales, for outreach and kind of that sales conversation, because there's a lot more personality. 93% more of the communication picture happens in video than it does through written communication, through tone of voice and body language. So we thought it would be great for sales. So we made a video, click-through prototype explaining the interaction, what that looks like. Sent that out to just our network on LinkedIn and on Facebook, and put a little Google form and ask questions. And the response we got on the sales tool was kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if I'd be comfortable with video. A lot of salespeople were like, yeah, I want this. But a lot of people who were thinking, being sold to, the buy side, weren't really sure if this is the way that they would want to show up in a sales conversation, even though they like the asynchronous piece. So then we got some clues from that initial prototype that kind of led us to meetings. And so we made a new video, new prototype, new screens, new story, pretty much similar technology, and said, Volley for meetings. Volley is the end of meetings as we know it. Most of your meetings don't need to be synchronous. You can take them asynchronous, et cetera, et cetera. And it was 97% of the people that responded to that survey that said, yes, I need this like yesterday, build this. So it was really just one little pivot in not even a prototype, but just a mock-up that helped us realize, okay, this is the most painful place that we could dive in. And so that's what we've done.
I love the story of building that video or that clickable prototype. And this is actually advice I give to lots of entrepreneurs that, if you can do either low fidelity or high fidelity, but something where you're not really engaging in necessarily writing a ton of code, but doing that quick mock-up, that quick prototype, and iterating faster. I'm a big believer of the Google design sprint and other methodologies like that, but that learn quick is so valuable. So it's really cool that you use that. So after that feedback, it sounds like you definitely felt like you had more of that, like, ooh, a lot of people are resonating with this messaging, this direction. Where'd you go from there?
Well, then we built a prototype that we could dog food as a team. We thought, okay, well, if we're going to team communication, we need to be using this thing as a team. So it took about 6 weeks to build kind of that base version that we were using to send asynchronous video messages back to one another, and started to feel it out, and started to realize some of the things that were available in the consumer world didn't really translate to business or work. And so we massaged that for a couple of months, and then it was probably 10 weeks. Then we went into private beta, iOS only. And we quickly learned, hey, we have an Android person on the team. And I prefer to communicate with my team on my computer, not on my phone. I don't want to be picking up my phone. Okay, so then we started building Android versions. We started building desktop for Mac and PC. 7 months in that we then announced and said, Volley's publicly available. We're cross-platform, and let's go. And that was just a few months ago.
It really does start to have a lot of kind of communication overlap with some of the other tools that people might be familiar with, whether it's Slack or Discord or things of that nature. And kind of as you think about the vision and future of your company, like, do you see yourself competing with those tools? Do you see yourself starting to replace them? Kind of what is the vision of where your product heads?
Well, I can tell you where we thought it was going, but now where our users have helped us realize it's going. So at first we thought, this is a Zoom replacement. This Volley is replacing meetings. It's the end of meetings as we know it. But the reality is there are still reasons that synchronous is much better for tight feedback loop sort of conversations, or emotionally charged conversations. You should not fire someone asynchronously, right? Some conversations need to happen live. They need to happen synchronously. But that's a small percentage of the ones that are actually happening. We don't need virtual happy hours on Zoom. It's just forced fun. It's terrible, those sorts of things. So that's where we initially thought. But what we found is this has become more of a Slack or Teams replacement for the teams that are using it. Not for everyone, but certainly for those teams that see this as a superior way to communicate face to face without having to be calendar to calendar. Yes, over time, especially when you look at a roadmap and you see transcriptions and the ability to create magic notes with captions and some of those exciting things, this becomes a Slack replacement with some necessary evil Zoom sprinkled into your calendar.
As I said earlier in the video, I'm offering $1,000 to the best pitch. So if you have a startup, if you're starting a company and you have an idea for a pitch and you want to hear real feedback from me as an investor of what I think, I'm going to give $1,000 to the best pitch. So feel free to submit. I'm going to leave a link in the description below, and just leave me a volley. If they're good enough, if there's some funny ones, maybe we'll even do a follow-up video. So definitely check out the link in the description below. Josh, thanks so much.
You bet. It's been my pleasure. Thanks, Greg.